Dear Swamiji. Okay. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce Swami Prasannatmananda Ji Maharaj, the head of our Vedanta Society of Berkeley. He very graciously agreed to come here to do our full Labor Day weekend retreat, and then the pandemic hit. So we thought at least we'll take advantage of Swamiji's time and effort by having this one-day session. We've had this Labor Day weekend retreat for, I think, something like 27 or 28 years before the center started. There were a handful of people who were here for the first one. I know Carol and Shukla and some of the others, and Swami B, of course. And anyhow, I don't want to take up too much time. Swamiji has a very beautiful topic. On prayer, he'll explain all the details of it. We will let him speak. We'll keep everyone muted. He'll speak as long as he likes. And when he feels like turning it over for discussion or question and answer, then we can unmute everyone. And there's, Swami, see, there's a button to press for raising your hand. If you go to your menu, there'll be something to press rather than everyone just blurting out a question. And then Swamiji can click on it. Or I can click on it. He's the host now. Once the hand is raised, then can I open them or he has to open them? Okay.
Maharaj, what I would suggest,
I'll go back to being the host.
You will be the host still now. There is no problem.
Okay.
I don't need the hosting. You take the hosting. Okay. I shall only share the screen. That's all.
Okay, that's better. Okay. So how do I do it? Okay. Then I think he has to give you back host your final notes. You may have to do it from your side, Maharaj.
Okay.
So can you go to the host thing and unhost yourself? Where did you go to do it?
Yes.
Probably people trying to get in also. Okay. Then also there's a way for people who don't want to ask a question in person for them to go into this chat and ask a question that way. And we're going to try to post this also. So everyone, please be aware that this may go public. Don't sue us if you say if you say something and say, oh, I didn't know it was going to be on the international web for everyone to see. Okay, we're just trying to do one last thing. Okay, so Swamiji. Okay, so now with great gratitude to Swamiji, we will turn the program over to Swami Prasannatmananda Ji, the head of our Vedanta Society of Berkeley. Maharaj, please. Now, how do we add new people? Oh, you can do it. Okay. Maharaj, please start.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for giving me this chance, at least to participate in the Zoom platform in this new normal. Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. Let me start with a chant which I have taken from Bhagavatam, the Uddhava Gita. It is the minor Gita, the part as our main Bhagavad Gita is the part of Mahabharata. The Uddhava Gita is the part of Bhagavatam. Let me chant and start our discussion. Om yadricha mat kathado jata shraddhastu yaf puman na nirvinya nati shakta bhakti yoga siddhidah. This is a beautiful verse. This verse actually is explaining our stand. What should we do? Sometimes we think that whether we would follow the path of bhakti, or we think, no, we should follow the path of jnana. So sometimes we are a little bit confused. But this verse specifically says us that according to our nature, we would follow the path. The verse says, in somehow or other, yadricha mat kathado, in somehow or other, by chance or by good fortune, if a person, yah puman, develops faith, indeed, somehow or other, on the words of my glory, or by hearing or chanting something, somehow or other, something I overhear, and my devotion evolves. If such kind of thing happened, and to whom, then in the next line, it describes the quality of person, said that non-irvinna, not distinguished or not inclined to spirituality, those people, those who are not inclined to spirituality, but not very attached also with the worldly things. So we want to become spiritual, but somehow or other, we cannot. So this kind of people, those who are vulnerable, this kind of people, they actually should follow the path of spirituality, and specifically the path of bhakti. So these are the people, those who are, we cannot completely come to the side of spirituality, and again we are not very much attached to our worldly samsara. So this kind of people is the fittest candidate to follow the path of bhakti. This verse is saying that. It's a wonderful verse. The point is this: frequently the devotees, they ask us and me obviously one question, Maharaj, how can we meditate? What is the process, a procedure of meditation? Or sometimes they ask, Maharaj, I want to meditate, but unfortunately, somehow or other, I cannot. Can you please suggest me what is the best way of meditation? So these are the questions. I generally suggest them that, please pray. Prayer is the very good thing. So please pray. But the reaction, the body language, I generally see, it seems that they are not happy with this question, because they think that prayer is probably a very old procedure. Probably they would have more interested to listen to some kind of critical type of spiritual practices. But however, these people, generally the people are not very interested towards prayer because of three reasons. Let me share the screen at this point. Oh, Maharaj, you have to allow the screen sharing. Okay. Generally, uh, because of three reasons, uh, people are not interested in prayer. Number one, they think that prayer reduces the position of a person to a kind of beggar. It is a kind of begging, which is beneath one's dignity. But it is not true. It is a wrong notion about prayer. It is because in begging, there is no relationship between beggar and the begged. But in spiritual prayer, it is addressed to not a stranger, but to one's eternal and inseparable beloved. Take the example, just like the act of a children of or the students approaching their parents or student approaching their teacher is not considered as begging. Thus, prayer is only seeking the guidance from eternal guru or teacher or teachers. It is not a kind of begging. It is rather based on love and affection. Secondly, people think that prayer is the sign of a weakness or a sign of a meek person who cannot protest. It is a kind of, very weak person. But it is not a sign of weak person. What is the sign of a weak person? If we think, what is the sign of a weak person? Means he or she doesn't have courage. So then they do not have any kind of courage or strength. Means they are afraid of everything. In other words, they are afraid of everything. Why this fear comes? We think that fear, the main cause of fear, that we don't have any possession. I don't have bank balance in my account. I don't have investment. So this is the cause of our fear. Or health fear is there. So because of health. But the point is that if we think very carefully, that fear is not because of our any possession. This possession cannot give us courage or strength. This is a psychological security that gives us strength. And prayer gives this psychological security. So take the example, that kind of psychological security that a baby gets from its mother, that a serious patients or relatives get it from the doctor in the form of assurance, or Girish Chandra Ghosh got it from the affection of Sri Ramakrishna, or a kitten gets it when the mother cat holds its neck for moving. So this kind of security, it is not the possession, some kind of having thing, it is the being thing that gives us strength. So prayer gives this being thing. So prayer is not the sign of weakness. Rather, as it gives us psychological security, it gives us strength. Thirdly, a prayer is a form of aspiration. People think, yes, prayer is an aspiration, but it is converted into spiritual discipline. It is a soul's dialogue with God. So mainly because of three reasons, people do not incline or they do not want to practice the prayer as a spiritual practice, but rather it gives us strength, and it is not begging, and definitely the aspiration can be converted into spirituality. In the early Vedic age, in Rig Veda, in the period of Rig Veda, we find that it was full of prayer. The prayer was very important spiritual practice, in especially in the period of Rig Veda. But in later years, when yoga developed and meditation developed, then slowly in the path of jnana, slowly uh, prayer was less emphasized. But it was Sri Ramakrishna and obviously Holy Mother. They suggested and revived the prayer. Swami Brahmananda, even Swami Turiyananda and Swami Vivekananda, who has generally propagated jnana, but if we study carefully, we can find in the letters of Swami Turiyananda ji or in the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, they also advocated prayer to the highest extent. So prayer is revived by Sri Ramakrishna from this Vedic age. In gospel, you can find frequently, innumerable times, Sri Ramakrishna suggested prayer. So prayer is a very important spiritual practice in our life. Now the question is, what is prayer? We have prayer is a mystical, intense and intimate conversation. It is nothing but conversation. Prayer is a mystical, intense and intimate conversation with the unknown divine. We don't know how the God is. So unknown divine through the medium of faith. Prayer represents the deepest cry and acute need of the soul, which finds expression in the form of an intense longing. When we feel any need, we want something, then actually we pray. And prayer, nothing. It is simple conversation. Once Holy Mother was asked by a devotee that, Mother, how can I offer, with what mantra can I offer food to Sri Ramakrishna? Then Holy Mother replied, what is the mantra? It is nothing. You offer food and just you will tell Thakur that here is your food. Please have it. That's all. So prayer is nothing but very deep, intense, intimate conversation. And it comes when we feel acute need. That is important. I shall come to that point afterwards. When do we pray? We shall come to that afterwards. So prayer is the first attempt of the ordinary human soul to approach God. Just like our meeting with our fellow men takes in the form of dialogue. If we see an unknown person, what we see in the form of a dialogue become familiar. Also, the first meeting of the soul with God takes the form of inner dialogue, intimate, deep inner dialogue. Just like a child speaks about its need to its parents, or a student seeks guidance from a teacher, or a servant places his problems before his master. So does the soul speak frankly to the Lord about its difficulties and needs and wishes. So it is nothing but a deep conversation. It is by expressing its need that child goes closer to its parents and understands its relationship to them. In the same way, prayer takes the soul closer to God and reveals the relationship with Him. Now, question may come, is every conversation a prayer? Yes. When a baby feels hungry or discomfort, it cries. Mother, she could understand. So to mother, it is an unarticulated prayer. In a way, every wish may be regarded as an unuttered prayer. If we wish something, that is also prayer. If we want something, that is also prayer. So in this sense, even an atheist or a materialist prays. So everything what we want is prayer. Thus, prayer may be grouped in two main divisions, secular and spiritual. We shall restrict our discussion on spiritual prayer. If you read the history of Sri Ramakrishna in Kashipur Garden House, you can find on 1st January, the Kalpataru day, Sri Ramakrishna blessed a person, prayed for his material well-being, and he got it. His name is Upen Babu. So he got it. He said, I am a poor person. What shall I do with God and everything? I need meal, I think, to feed my family. So he was blessed. So prayer is spiritual and secular. But this morning, we would restrict our discussion on spiritual prayer. When do we seek divine assistance? When we realize that our efforts are inadequate. Generally, we do not do that. After everything, birds, its flies everywhere and found nothing to sit. Then it came again and sat on the ship. So that's exactly the same way, when we realize that our efforts are inadequate to fulfill our need because of the inherent limitation of our soul, we pray and seek divine help. So that is why prayer is acute need. When we feel acute need, prayer comes fulfilled. How to pray? Before that, please remember 3 points. Number 1, prayer always addressed to personal God. Intimate. How can you establish intimate relation? So it is a deep, intimate conversation. So we need some personal God or avatar or saint. So it is interior dialogue is possible only when we have some personal God. Therefore, prayer is always addressed to a personal God. Secondly, prayer is done in expectation of some response. When we feel acute need, we pray. So with an expectation that yes, our desire will be fulfilled. So that must be there. And thirdly, through prayer, we relinquish our sense of doership and recognize God's doership. But on the second point, I would explain a little bit that prayer is some expectation. So it is a kind of knocking the door. If somebody is inside the room, another person comes and knock the door. So what we are doing, actually we are outside the door, we are knocking the door. The Antaryamin, the inner controller, is within our heart. So by prayer, we are knocking, as it were, we are knocking the door so that the controller will open the door for us. So that is why in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, knock, the door will open unto you. So that was in when Buddha, Lord Buddha, when he got the attainment, enlightenment, immediate after that, he said, allow, open the faith, the door of faith. So it is a kind of opening the door. We have to remember that. It is kind of knocking. It is not so that the door will be open. And prayer is opening the door of our heart so that we can receive the grace of God. We pray and immediately we ask, nothing is happening. So the point is, our door is closed. So prayer is the opening of this door so that we can feel the grace of God. Now, how to pray? There are two types of prayer. We must pray with a prayerful temperament, which is supported by faith. Faith is very important aspect in prayer, not only prayer, in every aspect of it. Faith means it is not blind faith, it is Shraddha. In Sanskrit, it has been translated as Shraddha. One point it is, in Bhagavad Gita also, you can find Sri Krishna number of times, he emphasized Shraddha. So prayer is internal and external. Now, you see, we do not know how our God is. So devotees, burning faith makes God a living presence. Only our faith can reveal the God within us. It is this continual exercise of faith that makes prayer a spiritual discipline. Prayer can be done in two ways, internal or external. In external prayer, one stands or sits before the image or picture, preferably in the temple or one's own shrine, and gazing at the image and puts forth one's heart in a fervent appeal. This is the external prayer. The internal prayer, one sits with closed eyes, visualizes the Lord's image in the heart, and appeals to him mentally. Then there are three conditions of prayer. First, we have already heard that we are praying to personal God, and it is a kind of knocking. And actually, we are surrendering our ego. By prayer, we are surrendering our ego, and we are giving up our authority, and we are accepting God's authority. So there are few conditions of prayer, three conditions of prayer. First is intensity. By intensity, it is meant the aspiration. We must pray with intense longing. What Sri Ramakrishna says, Vyakulata. Now the question is, how could intensity be developed? When prayer well forth from the deepest recess of heart, this happens only when we pray from some acute need. So that's the important point. When we really feel by heart, a pain, anguish. Sri Ramakrishna said, anguish, this pain. So acute need like devotion, faith, strength, these are the things. But some people said, yes, I pray to realize God. This is a kind of, it is true, but it is very advanced prayer. But for what we can pray to have our faith, to have strength, to have devotion. For that we can pray. This is more realistic than the pray to realize God in the beginning. So this kind of intensity must be there. When intimate relation with God is established, then we need him badly. When we need God badly? Swami Shivanandaji said that religion is to establish an intimate relation with God. Simple humanly relation. Swami Vivekananda also said that religion is eternal relation with eternal God and eternal soul. So this intimate relation we have to establish and cry and anguish pray with all kind of intensity. That is important. Then second thing is total dependence. I have already mentioned that we are praying for some expectation. That is very important. Prayer becomes effective only when it is restored as the soul means. This dependence is known Sharanagati, self-surrender, complete surrender. In Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, in Bhagavad Gita also, we find this Sharanagati. So in Oir Budhannaya Sanghita, this is a book, very rare. Oir Budhannaya Sanghita, but very common verse we find that 6 types of Sharanagati, 6 types of surrender. The verse says in this way, Anukulasya Sankalpa, Pratikulasya Varjanam, Rakshishatiti Vishwasha, Goptritya Varanam Tatha. So this is the verse we find in this verse. And it said that Anukulasya Sankalpa. So it said those which is favorable to us, we shall ask for that. What is unfavorable, we should reject it. So we must have faith that God protects us. And last line is an Atmanikshepa. This is the self-surrender, the sacrifice of egolessness. That is very important. So this is, and this karpanya, atmanikshepo karpanya, this helplessness, that is very important. A feeling of helplessness, it means a devotee refuses to depend on a matter, but depend only on God. It is very funny. In inspired talks, Swami Vivekananda said that, we know that who help himself, God helps him. But I am saying that who doesn't help himself, God helps him. So this is the kind of helplessness. When we are completely helpless, God steps in and helps. This is actually not a kind of weakness. This is only devotees' refusal to depend on worldly matter, but only to depend on God. This is the real meaning. Swami Brahmanandaji says on this, what do you mean by self-surrender? Does it mean we have to simply sit without doing anything? No. It means we must pray to him with a simple heart. This is called self-surrender. What does it mean by simple heart? Egolessness. This way we should pray. Then the third point is the persistence. Prayer usually takes time, sometimes several years. So patience is important. But even there is no response, we must hold on to it with tenacity and determination until it attains fulfillment. So, in prayer, we must learn wait, pray, and wait. So, patience is required in prayer. Swami Vivekananda said, by prayer, one's subtle power are easily roused, and if consciously done, all desires may be fulfilled by it. No matter whether it is spiritual desire or it is worldly desire, secular or sacred, no matter. All desires may be fulfilled, Swami Vivekananda said. So, it gives us strength and it actually makes us fearless. So these three conditions of prayer: intensity, total dependence, and persistence. Then I would just say something, there are Christian prayer, because in Christianity, prayer is very important spiritual practice. And during Middle Age, Christian spirituality recognized mainly three disciplines: meditation, affective prayer, prayer of simplicity or prayer of heart, and the contemplation. So what is corresponding prayer in Vedanta of these prayers? So actually, according to Christianity, meditation is not our Vedantic meditation. This meditation, maybe we cannot actually, it is not possible to establish exactly equivalent Indian system, yet it is somehow some ideally corresponding system in Indian prayer. So meditation is a kind of reflection, mananam. We know what is a reflection, And it is the mananam, we know this reflection means just contemplation. But in Vedanta Sara, the definition of mananam is given that it is the practice, what we are listening or studying, we are practicing that in our life. That is called mananam. Sravanam is study or listening something. Then mananam. Mananam is practicing those teachings or lessons in our life. So that is called mananam, reflection. So what we study, we should follow that in our life. Try to follow that in our life. That is mananam. So meditation means mananam, reflection. We should not only mentally practice those things, physically also we try to practice these things. Then the affective prayer. Affective prayer is our prayer. It has no specific any methodology, or it doesn't have any prescribed process of this prayer. So affective prayer is our prayer. You can pray freely. Then prayer of simplicity or prayer of heart. This is actually in Indian perspective, this is meditation, what we do, our meditation. And then contemplation is a kind of samadhi, because in Christianity, it means an intimate knowledge of God, which was God's free and loving gift to the soul. So it is a kind of samadhi, but samadhi means samadhi matram. If you go through Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you can find there are different types of samadhi. There are Savikalpa Samadhi, there is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and in 8 limbs, there are Ashtanga Yoga, 8 limbs, there is also Samadhi. And Vyasa actually explained it, it is Samadhi Matram. So this contemplation is a kind of Samadhi Matram. It is just for a very vague understanding. I just refer it because we can relate in this way. Then, if we pray, can we pray for others? Yes, we can pray for others. But there must be some conditions. What are the conditions? There are 3 conditions. Sorry, there are 2 conditions. What are the conditions? One is competency. If we pray continuously, we become established in the process of prayer. So we can understand, we can pray. So competency is required. This patience, I have already mentioned, intensity, total dependence, and persistence. So these 3 must be required for prayer. So competency, this is competency. And second thing is required, common source of divine power. Let me give some example. I think that Sri Krishna is my chosen ideal, and he is my chosen deity, so I pray Lord Krishna. But I am praying for my friend. So if my friend accepts Mother Kali, then it is not common source of divine power. So when we pray for others, there must be some common source of divine power. One has to accept Lord Krishna, then only prayer for others will be fulfilled. So these are the prayer for others. We can pray for, definitely we can pray for others, and it is helpful. Then the fulfillment of prayer. Sincere prayer never goes in vain. I have already mentioned, when we pray, we must pray for some expectation. So sincere prayer never goes in vain. An intense desire, supported by strong will. It is very important. Strong will itself generates much power. And when this intentional desire, because prayer is an intentional desire, you are generating this acuteness, your need. So this intentional desire is combined with divine grace. Through prayer, it will find its target with irresistible force and bring about the fulfillment of heart's longing. So three things. One is our acute need or acute longing. Second, our will. And third, divine grace. In Bhakti Yoga, Swami Vivekananda said, Bhakti is the simplest path among four yogas. Why? He gave the logic also. He said that here one benefit is there, here grace is there. You cannot find grace in Jnana Yoga. So grace is one of the additional source or additional thing what we can get in bhakti. So these are the fulfillment of prayer. Now the point is, this is all about prayer, what I have to say. But then my point is how this prayer takes us to meditation. This is the way for meditation. Prayer is a spiritual discipline. By following the path of prayer, definitely we will reach at the feet of our chosen deity. But at the same time, prayer leads to meditation. Let me see how prayer leads to meditation. Swami Vivekananda says, meditation is sort of prayer, and prayer is meditation. Very clearly, Swami Vivekananda said. So see, in both in meditation and prayer, will plays a very important role in our life. Let me see what is will. I have already mentioned three things are required: our acute longing, will, and grace. So, what is will? Will is very important in meditation also. What is meditation? Meditation is a steady stream of consciousness from I to mental image or object. What we do in meditation? We close our eyes and we think. What do we think? We think something, some object. It may be love. It may be our thoughts. Many things we think. And we have our experiences, We are trying to bring the object of our meditation and it slips away. We are trying again to bring it under our focus, but it slips away. So this tug of war, ultimately we will be exhausted and we leave the whole process of meditation. So this is our experience of meditation. So that means what we are doing actually here, we are applying some mental force to bring the object of our meditation under our focus. So this mental force or the steady stream of consciousness is called will in Indian thought. So there are different types of will in Christian. We find Christian scriptures. There are free will, there are God's will, there are different types of will. But generally in Indian philosophy or theology, we apply our will in this way. When the stream of steady uh, to the object does not change, when the stream of consciousness is steady and the object does not change, when the stream is not steady, the object changes. Some initiative or self impulse we apply or exert to maintain the steady flow of consciousness, to hold the object changeless. This self impulse is called will. In the picture, you can find I, object, and the in between will. So, the force, what we are, the process of meditation, this is three things. In meditation, three things are required. One, I am meditating. On something is meditating, the object, and the link between these, which is will. We are exerting some our mental impulses to hold the object fixed. And in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the definition of meditation is given. It is called Pratyayo Ekotanota. Pratyaya means the object of our vritti, what we are thinking. Maintain one thought. So in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, it is said the meditation is maintaining only one thought, like a stream of oil. That is called meditation. So this wheel is very important, which is holding that object under our focus continuously. So this is will and this is meditation. So now what is the role of prayer in this meditation? Withdrawal of will from the hold of external object is called pratyaya. What is happening actually? We are connected with the external object exactly in the same way. In meditation, we are mentally connected with the object of meditation, but in otherwise we are connected with the external object mentally. So what is doing this? What is the function of this connection? The will is the connecting link. Through will we are connected. So if we withdraw our will from the external object, that is called pratyahara, withdrawing our mind from the external sources. If you see in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, there are three steps. So pratyahara means withdrawal of mind. So you are withdrawing your will from the external object. And prayer, when we pray, we withdraw our mind from the external object. You are praying, you are directing your mind to one object and you are praying. So prayer gives this withdrawal. Actually, prayer is nothing but pratyahara. It is the step of meditation. Secondly, when prayer becomes intense, our mind becomes one-pointed, which is called dharana. So dharana is fixing our mind on a particular point, on a particular thought. So this is dharana. When prayer becomes intense, then it is called dharana. And thus prayer ultimately, and after that dharana is meditation, become one with that. So after that, prayer ultimately leads us to the meditation. Then another point is there, the meditation keeps our mind at the present. Mindfulness, if you see the mindfulness, what is mindfulness? Keep your mind at the present. That is the mindfulness. So prayer keeps our mind at the present. How it can do that? I am giving you a practical example. When you read a book, we read, okay? And after going through the page, we find, oh, I have read this page, but I could not register anything. I could not understand anything what is written here. Then we have to go again from the first line and we have to read. Why it happens? It happens, it is because our mind is not at the present. Our mind is flying somewhere. In Japam, most of the devotees, they say, Maharaj, when we practice Japam, in night we cannot sleep. But unfortunately, when we sit for meditation, we doze. Somehow or rather, sleep comes. Why it happens? It happens because our mind is not at the present at that time. So if the Japam is one, that is why Japam and prayer, if you pray, your mind will always be at the present and you never doze. So prayer is the antidote of dozing. You see, you can find that you are doing Japam, but when you are dozing, your Japam stopped, completely stopped. So this uttering, it is actually brings our mind at the present. So prayer is that kind of tool that it can. Definitely Japam has lots of utility, but Japam is one of the, in very looser way, Japam is the antidote of dozing also. So prayer is also the antidote of dozing and keeping our mind at the present. So Saint John of the Cross says, in all our necessities, trials and afflictions, there is no better nor safer remedy than prayer and hope that God will provide for us his own way. Actually, concentration is not a big problem. The big problem is that, which is difficult, it is to give a higher direction to the concentrated energies. That is the main problem. Prayer rouse the unconscious and energize every part of our personality to gear them all to meditative effort. In short, this is prayer, and from prayer we can go to meditation in a straight way. Now you are open to ask any question.
Okay. Now, there's a way for people to hit raise your hand. I need to get back to the screen though, right? Okay, you're the host. Oh, no, you can. Okay. Maharaj, beautiful
Yes.
talk. I'm sure there'll be a lot of interesting questions. Swami C is also here. He is going to be the one who will call on people and be the host from here on.
Okay.
And then we will. And let me just make one request. Please keep your questions simple and concise so that Swamiji can answer. Even if you have just a comment to make, that's fine. But try to
I can
keep.
see, Maharaj, I can see here 10 things in the chat box. So are these?
Okay, you can answer those if you like first, Maharaj. Sure.
Are these questions or anything else? I don't know.
Yes. Okay, there's one question. How to stay fully focused in your meditation and not get distracted?
Well, I would suggest prayer. If we cannot focus meditation by simply sitting and closing our eyes, so please start with prayer, and slowly, when it will be condensed, first pratyahara. 3 steps are there in meditation, you know. Pratyahara, dharana, dhyana. These are the 3 steps. Pratyahara means withdrawing your mind from the outside things. So prayer will do that. Then focusing your mind on a particular thought or particular object. So that is called dharana. So when you can direct your mind and your prayer to one object, to one chosen deity, then it is called dharana. And automatically, when you attain pratyahara and dharana, you will automatically enter into dhyana, the meditation. So, prayer withdraw your mind from the external world, and when it is intense and acute, so acute, Swami Vivekananda said a very good thing actually here. Swami Vivekananda said, uh, Swamiji said actually, it is not the words actually which is called prayer. It is actually intense feeling or intense cry that is called prayer. So that intensity is very important here. Here, Swamiji said, the feeling of want is the real prayer, not the words. So what we are asking, that is not important. The words is not important, but feeling of want is real prayer. Swami Vivekananda said. You know, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna always said that his prayer was, okay, if you are there, please reveal before me. That is the intensity, intense prayer. I don't know who are you, but please reveal yourself before me. That was the prayer. No procedure, nothing else, only intensity, the longing. Yes, Maharaj.
Oh, okay. Vasanta and Jaya Mistry, do you want to ask your question? Unmute. Okay, in the meantime, how do we know whether prayers bring fulfillment or that whether they're fruitless? How do we know if a prayer is answered, Maharaj?
How does, can you please repeat, Maharaj?
How do we know whether prayer brings fulfillment or is fruitless?
Oh, it is, you can clearly, you know, Swami Vivekananda said, you know, the spirituality, it is just giving an apple. You can understand that, whether your prayer is fulfilled or not. You are praying for something, you know, with an expectation. I have mentioned that. You are praying for some expectation. When your expectation is fulfilled, that means your prayer is also fulfilled.
Okay, now we have the question from Vasant and Jaya Mistry. If you pray to Krishna or Kali, God knows that we are praying to one and only one God. So this is
Yeah,
the statement.
you can pray anybody else. Your chosen deity may be many, you know. But in essence, it is the external form. So in essence, all are one. You are praying only one. That is the teachings we got from Sri Ramakrishna, you know. Externally, you are a mother, you are a friend of somebody, you are also colleague of some person in your workplace. At the same time, you are a teacher, you are a singer, you cook your food. So you are playing different role to different person. So exactly in the same way, but essentially you are one. Exactly in the same way. If you pray in the form of Kali, God reveals himself or herself before you as Kali. If you pray as Krishna, God reveals himself or herself as Krishna. That is yours. It is completely personal.
Okay, Maharaj, it looks like we're getting more chat messages.
Yes.
Chitta, Mon, Buddhi, Ahankara. How to apply them during meditation?
Yes, apply everything there. Because when you offer your pranam, it is called Shashtanga pranam. What is meant by Shashtanga? So 6 angas, 6 limbs is involved in it.
Not 6.
So prayer also, whole our chitta, mana, buddhi, everything we have to involve in our prayer. Egolessness is the ahankara, you are removing your ego, the ahankara. Buddhi, you are applying your buddhi. Yes, that is the main focus. The will is very closer to buddhi. So that is, you are applying that. Emotion is also there. Mana is also there, emotions. And then the samaskaras. So if you pray continuously in Western psychology, there are beautiful processes there, which is called auto-suggestion. So auto-suggestion means, in Second World War, Hitler's Goebbels was there. He said, if we say 100 lies, it will become truth, So what does it mean? And we know the parable, the story, children's story, that a Brahmin was said that it is not a goat, but it is a dog. And ultimately he threw it away, thinking that it is not a goat, but a dog. The point is that suggestion, if I am told that I am not pretty, I am very ugly, I believe that. So this is suggestion. People are giving us suggestion. This is called hetero-suggestion. From other people, we get this suggestion. When I give suggestion to myself, which is called auto-suggestion, I am giving me the suggestion. Yes, I am this, I am this. This has a tremendous power in psychological study. So it is a tremendous power. So this is the thing, when we suggest ourselves, that has a tremendous impact. And samaskara, our main problem is our samaskara. So samaskara, we can change our samaskara. That is the beauty of Vedanta principles. That Vedanta principle says you can change your samaskaras. If we do something right now, from today itself, in future it will change our samaskaras. So we accumulate our bad samaskaras, at the same time we accumulate our good samaskaras also. And in chemistry, there is a theory which is called laws of mass action. Laws of mass action means which mass is more, that will dominate others. So exactly in the same way, if we have good samaskaras more, then good samaskaras will dominate the bad samaskaras. So please accumulate good samaskaras so that we can dominate our bad samaskaras. So in this way, Ahamkara, chitta, emotion, everything we can apply to our prayer. And if we pray, our good songs, it is a kind of auto-suggestion. So we can accumulate our good samaskaras in this way. So we can involve whole mind, all this mana buddhi chitta ahankara in prayer in this way.
Thank you.
Maharaj, there's a question. How do we know when we have really achieved self-surrender?
When we know
When we have achieved self-surrender.
Okay.
Sharanagati.
Yes, Sharanagati. I have already mentioned that there are six signs of self-surrender. Anukulasya sankalpa pratikulasya varjanam rakshishiti iti vishwasa goptitva varnam tata atmanikshepa karpanne shadabidha sharanagati. So there are 6 types of sharanagati, self-surrender. So these are the 6. Anukulasya sankalpa, I have already mentioned this, that which is not helpful for us, we shall eliminate those things. Which is helpful to us, we shall accept that. We must have the faith that God is protecting us, and God has committed actually. This is a different story, but it is God's commitment to protect his or her devotees. So then Atmanikshepa karpanne shadavida sharanagati. So helplessness, this kind of thing. This is Sharanagati. And Brahmananda ji has already mentioned, very simple way. What do you mean by self-surrender? Does it mean we have to simply sit without doing anything? No. It means we must pray to him with a simple heart. Simplicity is very important in spiritual life. We do not emphasize these qualities because it is very simple. I have already mentioned, if we say we must pray, please pray, then you say, oh, no, it has no pranayama, it has nothing else. So why should we pray? It has no very critical exercise, We need some kind of very critical exercise. Then we think that we are slowly developing our spirituality, but it is not that. Spirituality is very simple. So simplicity is very important. Simple. Sri Ramakrishna emphasized that simplicity. He said Saralata. So this simplicity is very important practice in spiritual life. Egolessness. It is not the problem to make ourselves spiritual. It is difficult to give up our ego. That's the problem. Yes, Maharaj.
That's actually the next question. That the ego appears to be the biggest obstacle for prayer and generates doubt in the mind. How to overcome the situation and get grace.
Right. Ego, we have to understand. Actually, I was studying about ego, and very funny thing, interesting thing, in dictionary, I found 13 types of ego. As for example, ego, egoism, egotism, egocentricity, like that. So there are different types of ego. Ego is a very big study. And there are 2 types of ego. So, and prayer is the simplest thing to surrender our ego. There are 3, how to establish this relationship with God. There are 9 types we can surrender ourselves. Nabodha Bhakti, it is called Nabodha Bhakti. Our Maharaj is here and I am saying something about Bhakti in front of him. It is kind of, he is the master of Bhakti. So anyway, so there are Nabodha Bhakti is there. So 9 types of Bhakti. Again, this ego is a big study. So prayer is the simplest way of surrendering ego. We cannot eliminate ego. Sri Ramakrishna also said that the mark of a coconut leaf always left over in the tree. If the coconut leaf, it falls when it is ripened or something, it goes, but its marks must be there in the tree. So exactly in the same way, we cannot get rid of ego completely. So what we can do, we can transform our ego. Ego can be transformed. So tender ego can be ripen ego. So kacha ami and paka ami, what Sri Ramakrishna said. So we can transform our ego. And prayer is the most simplest way how we can surrender our ego. Ego is a big role in our personality. Ego has a very, very important role in our personality. So it is a different study. But prayer, easily we can surrender our ego. Dasya bhava. So that is, this kind of attitude we can develop.
There's a question, Maharaj, that I'm requesting you not to answer. This is how to overcome fear. This is my topic on next Sunday.
Okay, I will not answer. Yes, Maharaj. It is
now,
Maharaj will reply this question.
Is there anyone who would like to ask a question directly? You don't have to do it by chat. You either unmute or raise your hand or something. Do you see anybody there? Swami?
Maharaj, I have a question.
Okay, good.
So we say that when we pray, Thakur answers our prayer. So which prayer? Because sometimes we think that we are praying something, but in our mind there are thousands of other thoughts. So which pray? I'm thinking to pray for this, but then the other thoughts are overpowering my mind. So which prayer will really be answered? The one I'm thinking about, or the thousand different thoughts?
Well, thoughts may be many, but when you are praying, you are asking for one. I know you are lot of requirements or need, but when you are praying, you should pray for one thing or maybe many, because in the beginning, our mind is not trained. So pray. I would suggest that pray for sacred and secular both. In this way, you can develop the attitude of prayer. No matter to whom, you see, when a child, it cries for something, he knows his parents. So it cries for something to his or her parents only. So we have God. If we are in problem, whether it is sacred or secular, no matter, to whom shall we ask? We have only resort is God. So we ask for God when we are in problem. There is no matter, whether it is secular or sacred. As long as we are in this body, we need our secular thing, we need our sacred thing. So for everything, start prayer when we will start our prayer. Pray for everything. Then slowly, God will take us in the right path. If we have faith, Swami Brahmanandaji said, that when you are established in a little bit advanced stage, then your mind will become your guru. In the beginning, our external guru is required. But after some time, your mind will be your guru. And after some time, we can understand that our guru is Satchidananda. He is our only guru. So it is a kind of degree, level. So in the beginning, you pray for everything, I would say.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, there's another question, Maharaj. When we pray for others, do we affect their karma?
Well, this karma theory has so many things. You know, we have in Indian philosophy, we have 6 philosophical schools, which is called Shadadarshana. And each darshana has their own theory on karma. All these 6 schools, they accepted karma. But 6 schools have their 6 different views on karma theory. Only the Mimamsakas and Vaisheshika, they said that karma never be exhausted. You have to experience karma, whatever may be the matter. All others, they say that yes, karma can be exhausted. But Vaisheshika and Mimamsakas, they said you have to experience your karma. There must not be any exhaustion of the karma. It cannot be completely exhausted. So, and in Bhakti Yoga, they said Kapala Mochana. That is why Swami Vivekananda said Sri Ramakrishna Kapala Mochana. So only that avatar or God, by his Kripa Kataksha, that our this karma can be exhausted. Otherwise, after the realization, karma can be exhausted. So no, by prayer, definitely this Kripa Kataksha, blessings, grace can do many things. Swami Vivekananda said Kapala Mochana. So God can exhaust karma if he thinks. So yes, by prayer, it can be possible. Faith.
Maharaj, can we incorporate japa in our prayer?
Well, prayer means, the definition I gave, prayer means intense conversation with God. So, if you do it through word is not important. Again, word is not important. So when you are doing your japam, definitely it is your emotion is also involved with that. You are not repeating mere words. Your emotion, your feeling, everything is involved. And you are understanding the meaning also of your japam. So you are actually, definitely you can do your japa. Means 2 things you cannot do at a time. Our mind is that psychology says that we cannot think 2 things at a time. So you cannot do japam and prayer both at the same time. So anyone is very good.
Okay, now Maharaj, suppose we have 1 hour of time for prayer and meditation. How do we divide our time between japa and meditation, other types of practices? And what type of meditation is easiest?
Okay.
None of them.
Well, it is very difficult, Definitely, we must have a particular time for our spiritual practice, a definite particular time for our spiritual practice. That is important in the beginning. But it is very difficult, to separate these kind of things. These are our meditation, these are japam, these are things. What I think automatically, and Swami Vivekananda said also, that each one we have our individual yoga. There are 4 yogas. These are only the outline, but we should know that we have our own yoga. You know, our Guru instructed us the spiritual practice, the procedure of spiritual practice. But while doing the spiritual practice, we set our own spiritual practice, automatically systematized our spiritual practice. Something what we feel good to do, automatically it takes a long time, either japa or meditation. Okay, so I can give some examples. So japa and meditation. So some people, they do japa more, meditation less, or some people, they do meditation more, japam less. So it is according to the nature and attitude of person. Another very important point I would like to refer here, that you know, most of the people that I have started, they confused about whether we should do, whether I am a person of bhakti or whether I am a person of jnana. I think I am a person of jnana, but definitely I have some devotion and emotion. So it is a confused thing, you know. So the point is that what I would suggest, that what is your impression about yourself? Do you see yourself as a spirit or as a human being? If you see yourself as a human being, then I think bhakti is good for you. If you think yourself as a spirit, not the body, not the mind, then jnana is good for you. So try to understand what is our outlook about ourselves. So that will direct you. And there is no any watertight compartment. I think pray to God, surrender at the feet of Lord. Don't see time. Time is infinite. You are infinite. God is infinite. Where is the limitation of time here?
Maharaj, we have a limitation of time. So I think we have time for one more question.
Oh,
God is our,
okay.
oh, we can continue.
No. I have no problem.
Yeah.
Means successfully completed. That is what I am saying. My
Yeah.
first reaction is successfully completed.
God is our indwelling spirit. And so do we always need to pray for everything? Wouldn't God give us what we need for our spiritual progress without asking for it?
If you accept God, if I understood this question well, can you please repeat this question, Maharaj?
Yeah. God is our indwelling spirit.
Okay.
And so do we always need to pray for everything? Wouldn't God give us what we need for our spiritual progress without asking for it?
Well, yes, definitely God gives us. But unfortunately, because of our ignorance, we cannot understand that. So that is why we have to pray. God gives us everything.
Coming up.
But unfortunately, we cannot understand that. We cannot realize that. That is why we have to pray. We have to do spiritual practice. We have to do everything, you know. We are eternally free and eternally spiritual, eternally divine. We are eternally everything. But we cannot understand that because of our ignorance. That is why we have to pray. That is why we have to do our spiritual practice. Only to removal. This is nothing but to removal of our veil of ignorance. That's all. So it is the removal process. Our doing is removal process. So definitely God will give us everything, and God gave us already, but we have to realize we are not aware of that. For this awareness, we have to pray.
There was one woman sitting there.
Shubha, one more question.
Yes.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
So as you mentioned that timing of meditation is important, or prayer.
Not
Now,
asking.
I don't have problem with the morning and daytime prayer time, but for the evening, I always have a problem because I like to do it like when the at the very evening time, like when the sun is leaving and the darkness is, like Thakur said, you should do it in the evening. But in this country, the evening is sometime from 5:30 to 9. So then should I really have a time for my evening prayer, or should I do it like when it is really evening?
Okay, I can give the, the example from my experience.
Mhm.
So perhaps you know that we had a very senior Swami, and once he was the General Secretary Maharaj also. His name was revered Swami Hiranmayanandaji Maharaj.
Yes.
So Hiranmayanandaji Maharaj was the disciple of Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Shivanandaji, the direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. So I heard from, because I was in Sharada Pit, which is the next door of Belur Math. So I had the opportunity to go to Belur Math always and to listen to different Swamis from time to time. So Hiranmayanandaji used to say that, when he was student, he got the initiation from Mahapurush Maharaj. So he told Mahapurush Maharaj, Maharaj, I am a student. He was the student of Presidency College. So he said, I am a student. So I have studies and lot of things. So when shall I do my meditation and japam spiritual practice? I don't have much time. So then Mahapurush Maharaj asked him, how much time you can get? So he said that, okay, maybe few minutes. So then he said, okay, whatever you can do, you do it. So then he told us that from then on he did 4 minutes japam every day. But afterwards at his when he was retired, we saw that he was meditating hours together. So anyway, the main thing is not the time, what I think, what Swamiji said. Main thing is the intensity and your feeling. That is the main thing. But in the beginning, we must follow a particular time every day, which is suitable for us. So that is in the beginning, we have to practice, follow. So another very, when we were in training center, now the Vice President Maharaj Swami Prabhanandaji, he gave us the class of the rule class. There is a rule of Ramakrishna order. So he gave these classes. And the day one, he said, we are the sannyasin. We do not have any strict rule for us. Sannyasin is beyond all rules. But why this rule, what rule is there? It is because by this rule, we have to go beyond the rule. So exactly in the same way, by fixing our time of spirituality or spiritual practice, we have to go beyond the time. That is the main purpose. So in the beginning, we must have some time, fixed time. Then we have to go beyond the time. That is the idea. So
beyond the time, meaning
yes,
meditating all the time, or doing japam all the time? Is that what you
yes,
mean
that
by
was
doing
also
it?
one of these questions. It is, I can give example from my experience, So now, one of the trustees, he is the head of Swami Vivekananda's ancestral house right now. His name is Siddhanta Maharaj. So he is one of the trustees and he is the head of our Swami Vivekananda's ancestral house right now. So I heard, that means I was present there. Number of times, he is the disciple of Swami Bhuteshanandaji Maharaj. So he asked number of times Swami Bhuteshanandaji, Maharaj, the same question. Should we practice to repeat japam every moment of our day or every moment of our life? Then Bhuteshanandaji asked 2 times. Bhuteshanandaji replied this question in different times. Though He replied in this way that, you know, it is ideally good, but don't start it immediately, slowly, because otherwise it will create some problem. Ideally, it is good, but start it very slowly. If you cannot do, it is okay, but try it very slowly so that it may not be a problem in a health problem or health issues like that.
Thank you, Maharaj, and it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Any more hands raised or anything? Okay, any more questions? Jeff, you had a statement there, I think. Did you want to say something? Jeff, you have to unmute. No. Okay. Well, Maharaj, then it's not unmuting. Okay. Oh, then I'll read it. Jeff wrote, Mahatma Gandhi once said, there are as many religions as there are individuals. Is this like saying we each have our own yoga?
Yes, right. Each one of us, we have individual yoga, own yoga. Yes, right. Definitely.
Okay. Maharaj, then we've come to the end. We thank you profusely. It was a very wonderful session. I find this a very, very helpful topic because very few of us can really meditate, but everyone can pray. This
Right.
is within the possibility for each and every, there's not a single person who can say, no, it's impossible for me to pray. We can all do it. And meditation is very, very difficult for all of us, even practicing for years. So it's a very wonderful spiritual practice. We thank you so much, Maharaj. If you'd like to make a final statement or a closing prayer, we'll be very happy. Otherwise, we all express our deep gratitude for this session. We only wish it could have been a full weekend, and we hope we can do it in the future sometime.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Maharaj. That when this pandemic came, at least you have remembered me and you invited me in the Zoom. So that is also wonderful. So as we are now experiencing the summer recess, so fortunately this Sunday morning I am free. So I availed this opportunity, and thank you again for giving me this opportunity, Maharaj.
Pranam, Maharaj.
Thank you everybody for patience hearing.
Yes, and thank you. We thank all of you for joining in. And at least we can say that we haven't broken our record for how many consecutive years for Labor Day weekend retreat on a very, very small scale. All right, Maharaj. Jai Ma.
Okay, Maharaj. Jai Ma.
Okay. And for all.